the other cool thing is like there's some brands that were acquired over time at hosting.com and there's been migrations in place. But at the same time, the product that we now have at Rocket is super appealing to these customers. And we've already had massive agencies that are, migrating over seamlessly into the Rocket.net powered platform on hosting.com.
From building one of the fastest growing hosting companies in the world to leading product for a global hosting powerhouse, today's guest knows how to blend speed, innovation, and scale. Welcome to WP Legends. I'm Gautam, co-founder of Seahawk Media. Today, I'm joined by Ben Gabler, founder of Rocket.net and now Chief Product Officer at Hosting.com. Just last week, I had the pleasure of meeting Ben in person at WordCamp, Oregon, and I'm excited to continue the conversation here. Ben launched Rocket.net in 2020 with a clear mission: performance-first WordPress hosting with Cloudflare Enterprise built in, agency-friendly workflows, and unmatched speed. The approach worked. By 2025, Rocket.net ranked 167 on Inc. 5000 and became a trusted platform for agencies and SMBs worldwide. In August 2025, Rocket.net joined forces with Hosting.com, a company managing over 3 million sites globally, and Ben now leads this as CPO, overseeing product engineering across Hosting.com. Ben, welcome to WP Legends.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the incredible intro. I think it's interesting to kind of hear from another perspective. It's pretty awesome stuff.
I've actually, you might not remember, but you know what? We bumped paths at CloudFest in Germany a couple of years ago.
I do
also.
remember. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a very
I
good
believe
chat.
we were in the VIP lounge, I think.
Yes, absolutely. We had a very good conversation. I remembered you from there, and then we bumped into WordPress here at WordCamp Oregon also, and then hosting.com happened with you. And I know you have interesting things are busy, but I have a burning question for you to begin with. So Rocket.net is working independently and hosting.com is independently. Let's start from there, actually. Why don't you explain to our viewers about that?
Absolutely. So, I've been doing this a very long time. I
Mm.
think I'm going on around 23 years or so. Started my
Hmm.
first hosting company just fresh out of high school and realized HostGator was actually being built about 40 minutes south of me. So I joined HostGator as employee number 8, got a lot of experience there. When they moved to Texas, I kind of stayed behind in South Florida and built a company called Host9. Grew that to a couple million in revenue. Back in 2006, it was a very competitive market. So, I think I had like $3,000 to my name, and I just remember sitting in my office one night, and I was like, I got to do something to stand out. I can't just keep offering the same thing as everybody else. So I built a product called Reseller Central, and the
Hmm.
real problem that solved was it allowed our resellers. Traditionally people would buy a WHM reseller account. The hosting provider might put like call it 80 to a server. And the good thing is the resellers hopefully grow and they grow their business and add more sites. The problem is they're all on one server. So as they all grow together, the server starts to max out. So with
Hmm.
Reseller Central, we actually allowed them, even if they chose Dallas every time, it would put it on a different server. So it would kind of not only de-risk the agency slash reseller at the time from having all their eggs in one basket, but allow them to really scale effectively infinitely. So, after that, I went back to HostGator, sold the company to HostGator in 2010. They were prepping for a sale, so it kind of helped out with that for a year. And then I took some time off when the sale took place, and I did a couple of consulting jobs at various hosting companies, UK2 Group, and a couple of others, and ultimately landed a senior product manager role at
Hmm.
GoDaddy, where I relaunched all of the hosting products in 2013. So, I was responsible for building the cPanel product and kind of getting that out at GoDaddy, along with our Windows hosting and VPS product at the time. So, got to see things at all kinds of different shapes and sizes, from a solo founder to HostGator to a massive corporation like GoDaddy. I quickly realized that massive corporation was not my style. So after a year at GoDaddy, I moved back to Florida and did a couple of startups with the founder of HostGator, and ultimately took a chief product officer role at StackPath. And that's where everything just kind of changed for me. I've been
Hmm.
traditionally into this hosting experience with web hosting and servers. And then I was introduced to this concept of the edge with our CDN and WAF. We did about 15 terabits a second at StackPath. So one of the brands we bought was a company called Max CDN. And,
Hmm.
we had like a 90% churn rate because WordPress users could not figure out how to use the CDN. So I tried to
True.
pitch this idea internally, and it didn't really wasn't appealing to do website delivery. So I left StackPath in 2020, right before COVID, and launched Rocket, and then COVID happened, and that was kind of a uh-oh moment. But similar to 2008 when the housing crisis took place and all of that, the internet just really took off for websites, and
Accelerate.
people needed site.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
COVID kind of did the same thing. A lot of
Mm.
small businesses that weren't taking payments online had to, and certain people that needed side hustles started them, and we saw some incredible growth at Rocket. And what a lot of people don't understand is Rocket was bootstrapped. We were growing incredibly, just on the inches of 10 million a year in revenue, but as you surpass that, there's a lot of scale that has to happen behind the scenes in order to continue with your growth. So when we think about Rocket.net, like the feedback since we've partnered with Hosting.com has been 99% incredible. And then there's sort of that 1% of people that are just, there goes a good company, this, that, and the other. And, I would say the biggest difference here is like, I'm not going anywhere, right? The reality
Mhm.
is, rather than going out and finding a CFO, a COO, and, a human resources department, I found the right partner that would effectively allow me to not only just scale Rock.net's organization overnight, but really take the product and put it in front of almost a million people, right? So I think the market kind of doesn't understand that this isn't just then exiting and riding off into the sunset. And, like a lot of how I frame this is this was not an exit, it was an entrance, because really I never realized how burned out I was. Like I never went to lunch without my laptop, never went to dinner with my wife and kid without my laptop. And,
Mm.
it was just, I hit the breaking point of where I just could, needed help scaling. And
I
when I
see.
met
I
with
see.
Seb and Panos and team, it was just beyond clear to me that we are all very alike. We care about customer service. We're very product oriented, but we also have this hosting background, and everybody is just so nice. It was just like a match made in heaven. Like it made sense, and it truly is a better together story. So today we have Jessica Frick, formerly of Pressable and Liquid Web and Nexus, the general manager of Rocket.net. She's an incredible
I know
individual,
her
and
well. I know her
yep.
well, of course.
So I kind of brought Jess in and said, hey, I want to give you the full picture, confidentially, before you come on board. So I want you to understand like what the vision of this is. And she was
Mhm.
all in. She's like, this sounds great. I see it. It makes a lot of sense. And I brought Jess on a couple of weeks before we announced our partnership, but I made sure that she was heavily involved to kind of sanity check myself, but also make sure she knew, what the strategy was, and it wasn't a surprise. So, fast forward to today, we've joined forces, and, I'm running product software and, some of the user experience at hosting.com today. Jess is doing an incredible job managing the day-to-day at rocket.net to, sort of ensure we keep that high level of support. Just to give you a good example of what we're doing, Rocket has used livechat.com for 5 years now. It's been an incredible system for us. And when we looked at the hosting.com chat system, it was missing some
Mm.
crucial features, mainly around the visitor experience, not even being selfish for our agents, but it's a mutually beneficial system for agents and our visitors. So what we're
I hear
trying to
you.
do is work with livechat.com to see if we can't get hosting.com on there as well. And then magically the rocket.net support team and the hosting.com team are fully integrated in the same system. So as somebody might need critical WordPress support on hosting.com, we already have a queue ready to go and respond in under a minute for that issue. So that's a lot of, when I say better together, I truly mean that. Rocket has really built this gold standard of what we do for support. We have a 98% satisfaction rate, a sub 1 minute response time. And hosting.com is truly focused on what they call care, which is customer service. And when we marry the two together with all of these amazing individuals on the hosting.com side and all the amazing people at rocket.net, we're just going to have this industry leading support system. And, it's
Mm.
really exciting. And at the same time, Rocket.net is fully integrated into hosting.com today in a way that any feature we add to Rocket.net is immediately available to hosting.com customers. So we have all kinds of amazing things in store to create sort of a Rocket.net light version that may have not all of the features, but it's enough for maybe an agency that has a new dev project. They don't need
Yep.
Cloudflare Enterprise right now, but they need the support. So there's a bunch of different things that we're working on, and ultimately working to extend the Rocket.net platform into all of hosting.com. So even if you just want a regular shared hosting account, right, like you're going to be leveraging the same platform that has built our industry leading managed WordPress product.
I hear you. I hear you. So, so let me understand this. So, the sales team at hosting.com also is now at your disposal. Your sales team is at their disposal. Depending upon where a potential customer may be a good fit, you can use the live chat asynchronously or whatever way you want, and you can just route that customer here and there. It's already happened so quickly. That's pretty cool, right?
Exactly. And the other cool thing is like there's some brands that were acquired over time at hosting.com and there's been migrations in place. But at the same time, the product that we now have at Rocket is super appealing to these customers. And we've already had massive agencies that are, migrating over seamlessly into the Rocket.net powered platform on hosting.com. So it's been incredible to see all the stars align and actually see this vision start to come to fruition so quickly. And that's another thing that just speaks volumes. The hosting.com team was able to integrate rocket.net in 5 days, so they have an amazing team that was able to take our documentation and API, everything that we've done for the last 5 years at Rocket has been API first. We built our portal in a way that it has an SDK. It can be dropped in anywhere in the world with a couple
Mm-hmm.
lines of HTML and JavaScript. So we were off to the races right away. So it's just really exciting times. And, I think some people might be underestimating what this actually enables. We have an agency client that really needed to offer her customers email, and there's no real good managed hosting provider out there that does that. Well, now with hosting.com, we have a solid email solution, the same Rocket.net managed WordPress they've been using. And now they can easily, as an agency, say, here's your website, here's your email, here's your DNS, here's your domain. And we kind of create this one-stop shop while still preserving that amazing product and customer experience at Rocket.net. So,
The DNA, the
like,
Rocket. I
yeah,
would say the Rocket.net DNA is still there. It will never go away. You brought that into hosting.com. That's what I'm trying to understand, right?
exactly. And, I go back to, anybody that had a concern, on some of the groups, I said, what, at this point, like I could sit here for the next another 16 hours responding to all of these things. But at this point, I'm just going to let my actions speak louder than the words. And, I
Mm.
haven't let you down for 5 years. And I said, where are you going to go? You're going to go to Big Scoots, private equity. You're going to go to Kinsta, private equity. You're going to go to WP Engine, private equity. Literally every single competitor we have is no different. But I don't think people realize that. They just latch on to the negative. And, I haven't let anybody down in 5 years, and I'm not letting anybody down anytime soon. And I am just super
Love it.
excited to be a part of something big. And what better brand than hosting.com? Like, I truly would not want to be a competitor right now. Like, we have such an awesome opportunity here.
I could not agree with you more. It's a beautiful brand. They required A2, sunsetted it, made it hosting.com. I've been following the journey as well. Love the branding. I love your Rocket.net branding. And interestingly, when did you have the domain already? Always Rocket.net. Did you always have
So,
it?
so that's a funny story. I was doing like 12,000 a year in revenue, and I had on rocket.com, and I bought my first sponsorship for the Palm Beach Tech Association, and they needed my logo, and it just said Rocket. And I'm like, man, nobody's ever going to find me. So I called a
Mm.
broker buddy of mine. I'm like, hey, I need rocket.com. And he's like, yeah, right. I'm like, no, just try. They wouldn't even
Yeah.
return a phone call for less than 7 figures. I'm like, okay, that's a little. I'm like, what about rocket.net? And some of the interviews I've done over the years, it was a $50,000 bet that I took, and it was the best bet I've ever made in my life. We bought
Agreed.
the domain and rebranded overnight, and it's rocket.net, and it's been incredible.
I knew you would have paid a premium for that, of course.
Oh yeah,
It
definitely.
paid off. So the first year, 2000, because I think the interesting part of first your story is the first year of your operations. It was right before COVID. You launched on rocket.com, which is rocket.net. Right before COVID, you launched it. So tell me about your first 50, 100 customers. Did you make phone calls? Did you have an email sequence? What did you do to get your first 50 or 100 customers on rocket.net? I would love to hear that.
You hit the nail on the head, pretty much all around. So the very first step was friends and family. Who do I
All
know
right.
that has a WordPress site? We had publicly traded companies as some of our first customers on the platform just through friendships I've built over the last 20 plus years in the industry. So, always start with your friends and family. You kind of get,
Yep.
iron out any of the kinks. We didn't even have cache purging automated at the time. We gave, these customer PHP files to hit in the browser to flush the cache. And once I kind of saw that we were on to something, heavily invested more into building the platform out beyond the MVP. And at that point, once I knew at the time in the market, there literally was no faster than us. I looked at all of my competitors, Kinsta, they all say the same thing: 30% faster with Google Cloud, 30% faster. Nobody knows what that means, right? So with Rocket, I knew that nobody would ever sign up and have something faster. And like, it's just because of the speed of light, right? Like the way that delivery works when we're leveraging full page caching, we're the first company to do this with Cloudflare Enterprise. And I think it took our competitors like 3 years to try and catch on. And even today, the integrations aren't as sound as ours. And we pretty much had the same integration running for 4 years now. But I knew that. So what I did is I started reaching out to some, agencies. I paid for some honest reviews, and every time you hear somebody pays for you, it wasn't paying for a good one. It was paying for somebody's time to review you. So we had a couple of big wins on various WordPress sites, and again, it was just review the service, and if it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. And I can honestly say in my career, I've never ever ever paid for a good review. I have paid for an honest review.
Honest review,
Similar to
yeah.
what similar to what Kevin does with his speed test and WP benchmarks, right? Like you pay to play in that, but it's you might fail miserably. That's just, it is what it is. So
It is, yeah.
I think that was a good way for us to get started, and we ended up meeting. I met a guy that was in the ad tech space, and he ended up sending like 100 customers in a week, and I was like underwater working 24 hours, it felt like, and doing all the support myself. So after the first 150 or so customers, I was able to make a couple of key hires, and we just kind of kept focusing. We kind of transitioned from this unique selling prop of Cloudflare into the support and just the reliability and the human touch that we provide, and that's something that you're going to see come through on hosting.com, right? Like in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have every single employee at hosting.com on our website on the About Us page, right? And insights to our office. Corey Miller, myself, and Jess will be doing monthly webinar check-ins for the Rocket.net customers and just the world to kind of follow along transparently with what are the obstacles we've had to overcome, and where are we at with the Rocket.net platform? Where are we at with hosting.com? And really just showing that human touch. I feel like lately everybody's just been talking about computers and AI so much, they're forgetting about the actual humans, right? And everything we're doing would not be possible without humans.
I totally understand that. So I know for a fact in the initial days you must be responding to support tickets yourself. Are you intending to do that now every now and then just to see what's happening?
Say
Or
that
are
one
you
more time.
done? Support tickets, customer support tickets. You must have been doing that all the time on your own, initially at least.
So that's the funny thing about that is I actually took a chat 2 days ago on hosting.com, and the customer was an existing customer, and they saw my name. They're like, "Wait, are you the guy that built Rocket?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Wow, you're in chat?" I said, "Absolutely." So a lot of people don't know this, but when I launched
I guessed
cPanel
it.
at GoDaddy, yeah, no, but I mean, when I launched cPanel at GoDaddy, we had like a 6-day delay on ticket responses in our normal hosting
Oof.
product. I knew that would immediately make my product fail no matter what. So I broke like every rule in the GoDaddy handbook and put user voice inside of cPanel. So I was doing like 70 chats and tickets a day by myself to make sure that these customers got support. Magically, we had this great, obviously that doesn't scale. So we built what we called the bullpen, and we brought in 10 people at a time for 2 weeks from the hosting support team. And I would train them firsthand on cPanel. And then we created a queue, and everything was great. So, similarly to GoDaddy, I remember being in the call center asking if I could shout on call. They're like, "What are you doing in here?" I'm like, I want to understand how the customers, getting frustrated with our product. They go, "You're a product manager.
True.
You don't have to do this stuff." I said, "Yes, I do." Right. So, a big part of it is talking to customers. So I do tickets at hosting.com right now. I do chats at hosting.com right now. Same with Rocket. I talk to our customers every day, and that's something I've made a promise to the customers at Rocket.net. Like, I am not a sellout. I am not going to hurt their businesses. Like, I am only doing things to make us bigger, better, and faster at what we do.
I totally understand that. I have a question which I ask everybody. I'm curious to get your opinion also. Like, where do you think WordPress is going in the next 2 to 4 years? Like, not beyond, like just focus on the next 2 to 4 years. I know we are all bullish about it, but considering like the framers, the Dora, the Wix and Squarespace improvements, Lovable, everybody using AI, where do you think WordPress is going in the next 2 to 4 years?
Sure.
Your
I mean,
opinion.
even with all of that stuff, right? We've actually been growing faster lately,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we're ranking pretty well inside of the LLMs, which was accidental. Nobody really even knows how it happens yet. But you know, even in the 2 to 4 years, I don't see anything drastically changing on necessarily WordPress. I mean, at the end of the day, there's all kinds of noise out there that you just have to ignore. We made sure to stay very clear of all the drama and stuff. We're huge fans of WordPress. We've beefed up our core contributor team. We're going to quadruple down with hosting.com resources now. Some of our support team runs the hosting team, the Polyglots team. Like, we're huge contributors for our scale. We contribute more than our biggest managed hosting competitors. It's wild.
Okay, that's
But
cool.
for me, Yeah, I don't see WordPress. If anything, I could see code quality and plugins and themes getting better with some of this. Like, I'll give you an example. Like how we use AI at Rocket is we use something called Sorcery, and whenever a developer puts a pull request up, Sorcery AI will review it, and it gives suggestions, right? So AI is not writing our code, but it's challenging our developers, right?
I
So I
see.
think as if I'm building a plugin today, like I'm going to write the code. But then why not leverage something like Sorcery to go ahead and review my code and help me find improvements? I think there will be a world where these plugins might eventually go through like the repository and have AI look for any optimizations that can be done before it's approved. I think there's a whole lot of opportunity ahead. I think as well as WooCommerce continues to optimize their data structure inside of
Hmm.
MySQL and hopefully open up other data stores down the road. I think that creates a really good opportunity for growth in the market as we improve performance all around. So, yeah, personally, I don't see it going anywhere. But the beauty of what we're doing with a SaaS platform at hosting.com is even if Laravel or whatever the next big thing is, like we're ready for it. But again, we are still very bullish on WordPress without a doubt and
I
huge
think I
fans.
think WordPress just needs to become easy for the millennials, the people who those who have no understanding of tech, etc. Let's say somebody wants to launch a WooCommerce site, e-commerce site. Let me not use the word WooCommerce, e-commerce site in any segment. Could be jewelry, could be clothes, etc. With Shopify, it's just super easy. With Woo, still there are some steps involved, and I think together everybody's trying to sort that out. For example, Elementor now has this. Elementor is actually now Elementor Cloud also, which is kind of like a competitor to you guys. But still, people they still have a solution, the AI, the planner. So I think together everybody's trying to sort it out. But yes, ideally, there should be a button. Click it, and your e commerce website is ready to rock and roll. And I would love to see innovation like that coming from hosting companies like yourself. I would love to see that, something like that. The innovation, I think, is what is important, is very much needed. I think, and that is the way Woo and WordPress will keep on growing and growing. That's what I think. Maybe I could be wrong. Or is there any other
No, no,
innovation?
I agree, and it took 4 years, but I when I launched the company, I asked WP Rocket to do a partnership so I could offer their plugin,
Mhm.
and they finally built an API to do it, and we offer it today. And we've got thousands of licenses. Our customers love it. It's great. Like we're building a solution, right? And they're part of it. Rather than somebody having to go search for something they need, we can just put it on the truck and give it to them. So I fully agree with you, and I think partnerships between plugins and themes and hosting companies are crucial. Especially when it comes to we see a lot of stuff at scale. So there might be a specific plugin for coupons that we see that performs the best, right? Now we know that we
Mm.
can say, hey, we know 9 out of 10 shop owners are going to need this. Let's install it for them, right? Things like that. And that's a lot of our focus here is even working with different plugin providers to see what makes sense for us to give our customers.
I totally agree with you 100%. And what about WordCamps? Are you going to have two different brands there, or are you going to do one booth at a time? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so Rocket.net as a brand is not going anywhere at all.
Mm.
The brand and the people are a huge reason why this partnership even took place. So as far, when it comes to hosting.com, that is definitely our flagship family brand,
Mm.
without
Mm.
a doubt. But
Mm.
Rocket.net is a very important part of that. So what you'll see at a WordCamp is us having a big booth and half hosting.com, half Rocket.net in the same space because we are the same team and we can now talk to a variety of different folks. Like maybe it's just a solo entrepreneur that just needs a shared hosting account to get their first site up and running,
Mm.
or a enterprise client like mybirdbuddy.com that just needs massive scale for Black Friday to sell millions and millions of dollars worth of product. The beauty of what we're building here is sort of an infinite lifetime value for a customer because somebody could start on this end of the spectrum with one visitor and then go all the way up to millions of visitors without ever having to change platforms. That's ultimately what we're setting out to do here.
I like it. I like it. You know what I'm imagining right now? I'm at maybe like I'm walking down the street. There's a Starbucks, there's a Dunkin'. They're both having their cold brews. I love the cold brew at both of them, and they're just together. You choose the cold brew there. There's a different tone to it. That you choose the cold brew from there. There's a different tone and palette to it, but essentially it's a cold brew. But I think that's what I'm imagining, kind of, because they're both powerful
Yeah, I
brands.
mean,
They both coexist. They both coexist. That's the big. That's what I was getting to, basically.
and at the end of the day, you're still going to get the same amount of caffeine effectively from each, right? So, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it. And I think the way to even take it a step further is if they were both manufacturing their coffee beans on the same conveyor belt, right? And I
Oh
mean,
my
that's
God.
effectively what we're trying to do
That's a good
here,
one.
and what we are doing actually is we're effectively building these brands off of the same platform, which is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful things in the world.
I hear you. Any advice you would give to founders weighing acquisition versus independence? Because you've done that successfully.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's there's an exit or there's a strategic
Hmm?
play, right? So
Hmm.
if you look at our competitors, they word it in ways, or like Kinsta didn't even
Cash
talk about
out,
it publicly, but
cash out,
they
cash out.
they do a
Yeah.
recapitalization where they sell a huge chunk of their company to private equity, and there's really not a
Hmm.
strategy there. It's just a cash
Hmm.
machine at that point. Whereas with us, we have partnered with even our Oakley, they effectively power about 30% of the hosting industry. So this isn't just some private equity firm that wanted to get into this hosting thing. Like, our board is comprised of people that have been doing this longer than I have, and they've seen a lot of stuff, right? And that was the most appealing thing to me about this team as a whole was the real people. It reminded me of being at HostingCon 2006, sitting with my peers talking about hosting. And we're all hosters at heart, and we love this industry, and we share a common passion for it. So I think when it comes down to it, you have the exit, which is where you sell your business and retire and move on, or do something else. Or you take it to the next step and you make a strategic move. Just, similar to, you just make a strategic move. And now all of a sudden you look at
Well, like
Rocket, we
what
just
you've
went
done.
from,
Yeah.
right. And, we went from a bootstrap business with about a 50%. We're super profitable. It's great, but we also didn't have this, we have an army of 1,000+ people behind us now. So like little things that none of our customers ever think about. They just expect to be able to hit live chat and one of our team members is going to respond. That's the expectation we set. I get that. But what goes on behind the scenes, people get sick, people have families, people have, maternity leave, whatever it might be. Now, if Rocket ever got into a jam where we were down a couple of folks on a shift, we can pull people in from hosting.com to help us immediately. So it's like
True.
we have backup
True.
resources, and that's something that a lot of people don't think about, right? And
I totally agree.
I think the other side of that too is when you bring up like WordKit. We went from these little booths, we graduated to like a 10 by 10, but now we're going to have this massive presence with hosting.com to where we can really make an impact for both brands, but also we now have this capital behind us that allows us to really double down on Five for the Future and other,
Hmm.
make WordPress. We're super passionate about it, and it's very exciting times.
I'm very excited to see the innovation which you bring in. I'm very excited to see that because I've been following your journey for many, many years, hosting.com now also. So I'm very excited to see the innovation which you bring in. And all of us are trying to make the web a more beautiful place. That's what I speak on a lot of my podcasts also. We're coming up on time. So some fun questions for you. If not
Sure.
hosting, what would you be doing if not hosting?
I really like delivering pizza a lot. That was way less stressful and a lot of fun. But it's interesting with that. Other than hosting, it's tough because I did try to venture out and do a couple of different industries,
Mm,
whether it was rental property
mm,
software
mm.
or live chat software. But I always found myself kind of longing for this hosting thing. Like it's what I know. It's what I've been good at my whole life. So it's very
Yeah.
tough to say. But I will say delivering pizza was way less stressful.
I totally agree with you. I think I would choose to open a cafe versus being in the agency world and of making some products and services sector any day. I totally agree with you. And what are some WordPress plugins which you really respect and love? I know you mentioned WP Rocket just now. I respect it too. Any others which you would like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, we work very closely with, some of the Awesome Motive team. So I
Mm,
absolutely love, like All in One SEO, great people, Ben over there,
mm,
great team. We've been working with them for quite some time now. I
mm.
think, the Elementor team, Miriam, I absolutely nothing
Yep,
but the utmost respect for Miriam and her team. They're amazing individuals. I
they are.
always get
Yeah.
super excited when I get to see them at WordCamps or CloudFest. And then of course the WP Rocket team, I think they're also very nice people. I've known them actually for a very long time. They were a Mac CDN / StackPath customer for their old
Mm,
Rocket CDN product back in the day. So I've had a relationship for a very long time, and they're just really good people. And at the end of the day, last but not least, Till from Object Cache Pro and Relay, one of the most
mhm.
incredible human beings I've ever met in my life. Every time I see him, it's a huge hug and good to see you. And we have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
really good time hanging out and kind of talking shop. And just a brilliant engineer and human being. So I love that we get to work with him, almost daily at Rocket with Object Cache Pro and Relay. He's built some incredible tools. So Definitely
That's
should check those
amazing.
out if you're not.
And are you going to be going to CloudFest or any other WordCamps, local WordCamps in overseas, maybe Asia or Europe next year? What are your plans?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'll definitely be at CloudFest USA this year for sure. Always be at WordCamp US. I want to try to do WordCamp EU. I would
Hmm.
love to do that next year. We have a pretty big team over there. And then I would love to try to look at the dates of some of the like WordCamp Asia to see if I can't couple that with visiting some of our hosting.com offices.
Have you been to India? Have you been to India?
I have not been there yet.
Mumbai. So WordCamp is in Mumbai, and I have been actually talking about this a lot because obviously I'm from India. Now we live in the UK. But WordCamp Mumbai is going to be the most spectacular one. I can bet my life on it because the hospitality, the culture, the people from coming from all over the world, and the incredible food. So try and make it if you can. Make a holiday out of it with
Yeah.
your family. I would
No,
highly recommend that.
absolutely. We have an office over there too, so I'll definitely have to try to do that. And the other thing is, now that I know, like, I forgot that you're in the UK. I'll be traveling probably quarterly over there at minimum to see the team in London. So I'll have to give you a shout, and we'll grab some
You
lunch or
have
dinner.
to, we have to. You must let me know. I'm very central. Hit me up. We must go out for a pint or coffee, whatever you prefer.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
pints all day.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being on my show. It's great chatting with you. And I
Absolutely.
wish you
Thank
all
you
the
for having
best.
me.
Thank you. Bye.
Likewise. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.